part 20 of sharing my story on here because it's so much easier than writing another book. And it is, at this point in the story, it is August of 2003, and I had just met Reed, and we are just instantly best friends, because I can see why Tim had said, "Oh, I met your husband today," because he was so similar to me in so many ways, in that he was just really vulnerable and real and honest, and we talked about absolutely everything. Like the first day we met, we were talking about abuse and SA and the problems that we've overcome, and we're both new Christians and everything. It just was such synergy and such magic. Like it was palpable. You could feel it in the air. It was like nothing I had ever experienced, and I had experienced a lot. And it was so unique, and our times together, it was just magical. So we start talking a lot, like a lot. We are very fast best friends, and we talk about everything. And he is so fascinating to me because he had been raised very counterculture, like I was also, and yet we had these weird commonalities, like both of us being raised in trailers, and his family was traveling and looking for the pure in heart, where we were just kind of wandering, didn't really have that much of an agenda. And it was just different though, because he had had all this experience in activism. He had been really trained as a street activist. He was very vocal. He knew like freaking everything. It seemed like he knew about like women's reproductive health and like how our bodies function in a more scientific way. And that was something I had never encountered with men. Like I knew a lot about myself and like pleasure and those kinds of things, but I did not understand like menstrual cycles, and he knew all of it. And so I'm learning from him. And then he had also built his parents' house. It was a really amazing, what do they call it? A straw bale home. So he had designed and built this straw baled house starting when he was 17, and he was wrapping it up. It was almost done when I met him when he was 19. And it was like so alternative and counterculture. And I was like, I loved all of that. His family was very much anti-government, and so was mine. And it was like things just matched and aligned in such amazing ways. So I ended up having to buy like a second battery for my phone, because phones used to have batteries that you could change, so I could talk to him more. And as our relationship is progressing, and I see him quite a few times because I'm driving through, and every time I would stay in the house that he was building for his parents, and we would just chill. It was never, we never dated. We never, like, we didn't even court. We were just best friends. And we would have these deep conversations that just moved my soul and his soul. Like it was pure magic. And then he would also hang out with my daughter, who at this point is 2, about to turn 3. And he would read her books, and he was just so gentle because he had 4 younger siblings. And so that he had mostly taken care of. He understood how to take care of kids, and how he was so gentle and nurturing, which was so opposite of everything I had ever known. But yet he was strong and masculine too. And there was only a couple times that I had red flags, and they were so minor that I was like, okay, nobody's perfect. Like there has to be a couple red flags. Once I saw a little bit of aggression, and then another time, so we had talked about getting married. By the time Christmas happened, oh shit, before we get there, we got to go to Halloween, because we went to this event Light in the Night, and it was the most amazing experience. I was just like floating on cloud 9 in love. And I was standing behind him at this big concert, Christian concert, and I had never felt more safe in my entire life. Like I was just barely touching his shoulder to my shoulder. I was kind of standing behind him, and I knew he was the one I was going to marry. Like, there was no doubt in my mind he was the one. And I also knew that I needed to be patient and wait for him to like figure it out, because he is 5 years younger and I was a Christian. I'm letting the man lead, letting him do the thing. And that was real. So I called my mom on the way home because I'm driving back to the town that her and I live in. And in the same conversation, I'm like, Mom, Reed's the one. He's the one I know I'm going to marry. And she's like, I'm getting a divorce. My stepfather had thrown her up a flight of stairs. And she was like, this isn't safe, I've got to go. And she was like, we made plans on that phone call. We talked about my awesomeness, and she was like, I'm moving to Florida and taking my sister. And so she starts packing up and leaving, and I'm like, well, now I'm in Idaho Falls by myself with my abusive stepfather. Like, I don't want to be in this town. So my mom leaves, and she goes to Florida, and she starts working for a crisis pregnancy center. So I'm just completely inundated in this pro-life activism, and I'm finding my voice, and I'm like sharing stories, and my mom's healing, and like, it's this big thing. And so I also have this moment because I'm in school, I'm working at a restaurant, I'm running my house cleaning business, and I'm in school full-time for pre-law with a minor in philosophy because I really love philosophy. And I decide, sitting in the library one day at school, like, I'm looking at my bills and I'm like, this is ridiculous. Why am I a part of this system? I don't need a certificate. I just want to live differently. I'll read all the books. I'll get all the education. I just am not paying. It was like a $3,800 bill. I'm like, this is stupid. I'm a single mom. I don't want to do this. I just want to live my life. I'll read the books and gain the education. And I hated biology. Like, biology, the teacher I had, the professor, was first year and she was awful. And so I end up dropping out of school, closing that housekeeping business, quitting my job, and I moved to Boise, Idaho to be closer to Reed, because at this point we're talking about marriage. And we're still just friends that are just gonna get married. And I pack up and I move with my daughter, and now I'm also closer to her dad, so the drive's easier. Everything just makes sense. And this is kind of the beginning of a spiritual psychosis, because the holy roller Jesus is just coming in strong. Everything means something, and it's all divine, and it's all amazing, and Jesus' fingerprints just all over all the stuff. And I had always gotten intuitive knowings. Like, I've always just known things and seen things and felt things. Part of this really came online when I was 17, 18, right around there, and working the track with Martin. There was a really old hoe that came up to me on the track. I was in SeaTac, between the airport area between Seattle and Tacoma. And this old hoe came up to me and she goes, "You better watch out for him. He's looking for girls like you." And at the time, the Green River Killer was working that area also. I knew exactly what she meant. She terrified me. And I knew at that moment that I needed to really learn to listen to my body, because that was what was going to keep me alive. And really, when you're in that situation, you only have like 10 seconds leaning in someone's car window to decide whether or not they're going to unalive you. And there were some situations where I did not go, and they could have been him. Like, I'm not going to say either way because I don't know for certain, but it was a terrifying season. So I'd been listening to my intuition, but when you add the Jesus and male God as the authority over you, it causes you to start questioning your position as a woman, because it's like, I'm fallen. I'm Eve. I'm the one who ate the apple. And so it puts all this doubt in you, and then male authority over you. And so between Tim, my friend that I met online dating, that was the connection to Reed, between the two of them, Reed and Tim, I was just falling deep into this believing male authority. And it was really, where it goes next gets a little crazy.